Hey there. So I'm back. It's Val. And this is Rant with a Purpose. You are talking with me and my friend, my really, really good friend. Her name is Rubeena. Um, we actually went to the same college, but we weren't really even acquaintances. Even though it was a small school, I think I was just very oblivious to my surroundings. But we became friends while we were working at a hospital. And we were inseparable while we were working together until she stopped and she moved away from me into another state. But we are still very, very close at heart. So here's Rubina. Rubina, you have anything you want to say with that introduction? Any flashback or comebacks you have?
Um, I guess, I was also like oblivious to my surroundings, and I guess that's why we didn't, cross, I guess. I mean, we crossed paths, but like, I guess we weren't, I think we were all in our own bubble. Yeah, but I'm glad we became friends, and um, uh, that's it. I think that's all I but
Yeah, I mean it was fairly small school, but yeah, I think the two of us are so alike in that we were very ignorant to our surroundings and also to career choices as well. Although I would say that you have far more stability than I probably did in your grounded choices. So we both are pharmacists. We've Rubina, you've worked in hospital for as long as I probably remember. I've done, you know, retail, I've done hospital, I've done quite some other things like medical information, I've done call center. Um, but just looking back to our younger days before we started college, um, how did you come across in pursuing your degree in pharmacy? Like, what was the choice that you had made?
So I remember I loved the sciences. So I remember loved chemistry. I had a great chemistry teacher. And so I was like, whatever. And it was 11th grade. And I was like, whatever I want to do something with chemistry. And I remember the church that I was going to at that time, there were two pharmacists there. One, he didn't really care much about pharmacy. The other one was an ID specialist. And one day she actually like gave a talk about how she did pharmacy school and then she did residency and how much she just brought so much like enthusiasm and joy to her career. Like she was just, it sounded like she just really loved her job and what she was doing with it. And so I was like, you know what? That sounds like something that I would like to do. And I actually also thought about biomedical engineering. So I was between biomedical engineering or pharmacy. And then I visited USP and some other schools. And then I eventually, chose pharmacy because I thought, that, like just thinking about that ID specialist and how much she loved, that's how I decided to go that route.
That's really amazing that you had a mentor, like somebody to inspire to pursue your pharmacy career. I don't know if I've ever told you, but I didn't even know what a pharmacist did. I didn't even know what pharmacy was. I just hear it from family. I knew I wanted to do something related to healthcare, related to medicine. And my aunt had told me, okay, just do pharmacy, and then if you want to do more, you can go ahead and go to medicine if you want medical school, but don't, start out with biology, and then you'll end up not getting a job if you don't pursue medicine. So that was it. And I had just applied to one school. I would say I'm a big procrastinator, so I applied um, on the day before or on the day of the deadline. And I was just kind of going off of deadline. I only applied to one school. Thinking about today, I'm sure a lot of people don't do that. Especially, I think some schools now do waive their application fee. I could be wrong on that. But at the time, I didn't want to pay, for all these different schools. So I just went by the deadline. So yeah, USP had, I think their deadline was in January. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to go downward the line. There's Temple probably in April and Howard in May. So I was just looking at all the surrounding area schools. So that was it, and I was accepted, and that was that. And I remember they had said, to you were accepted, you need to now go interview a pharmacist. So then I went to a local pharmacy chain, and I interviewed a pharmacist because I wasn't even sure. I thought all they did was, count pills and stock bottles. I didn't really know exactly what they did because I didn't really need medicine when I was younger. Um, and then they thought I needed a job because they thought I was, going for an interview. So then they just kind of hired me, and that was just there. I think I just kind of stumble on jobs, serendipitously, like it's just um, comes, and then I never really got to think about them in a thoughtful manner and pick the career that I wanted until I would say, way into my working career was when I realized after, so many times of quote job hopping or switching jobs because I just didn't find the passion in them, did I realize that where I wanted to pursue my degree. You know, and I think from our background, a lot of times the immigrant parents, like they push you, right? Like you got some like pretty obvious choices: doctor, lawyer, pharmacist, bioengineering. Some of the just obvious majors that will get you to a guaranteed stable career. Um, but like looking at that, like now I feel like there's so many different career choices that you can make that we don't know, like different ways people, work um, that are not there. Like even with a pharmacy degree, there's so many things you could do that we weren't privy to. Um, thinking about that, um, what do you think, um, we would have done differently either for ourselves or now thinking maybe for future students who talk to us or, reflecting on that, like how would we want to direct our kid now that we're past our prime? Um, I think we're still young, but now that we're a little bit more mature, I don't know about being wise, but now that like we're 40, um, what do you think you would still want your kid to go into a career that makes money or you know, just what do you think? I'll let you go first.
Um, so this is something my husband and I both we talk about it a lot. Especially in the last couple of years, and I if I were to choose, if I were to go back, I don't think I would have done, like, I don't regret the path that I chose because it actually helped me in to be where I am today, And being an immigrant, daughter of an immigrant, was that, I came to this country when I was 13 and my parents are just minimum age employees. And so for me, though they didn't directly put any pressure on me, I felt the pressure to be able to go into a career that makes money because everything was like a no, I can't do this because I don't have money. I can't do that because we don't have money. And um, though they didn't make me feel like that, I knew it because I was old enough to know when I saw someone whose parents were like in the healthcare field or mom was a nurse or like I saw the difference of how they live their life versus how I live my life. And for me, I felt like the opportunity to, go to pharmacy school, to be able to take out loans. And even though I had classmates who didn't have any loans,
Mhm.
that I had to make it. I couldn't like party and like bail out. Nobody was gonna bail me out. So, but for like my children, you know, me being a pharmacist, my husband's a physician, like they have the bandwidth to explore. Like they don't have to like make it the first time. And um so I feel like they can focus on their what they're good at, and look at other opportunities that they can go into. And there was no um like growing up, I think that if you failed, like I felt like I was done. There was no one can rush
Mhm.
me out of that. And now that I'm like a 40, I feel like, okay, if I want to choose something else, I can now. I don't know if I could have done it earlier. If I realized, like, after I graduated pharmacy school 2 years in, I'm like, I don't like pharmacy. I don't know if
Mhm.
I could have just quit or have the courage to quit and do something because I had so much student
Mhm.
loans.
Yeah.
And so now I feel like if I don't want to do this and I want to do something else, I feel like um, I do have that bandwidth. And for my kids, they have it. They hopefully, um, they can have that choice at a much younger age compared to me. Um,
Yeah. I agree. I came here when I was 7. So I have that same mentality that you do. Yeah, my parents were not the pushy type either. They in fact are pretty mellow, but yeah, like you can see the struggles that your parents go through, and you want to do better, right? To make them proud, because like for my parents, the reason why they came here was really for our education. They had said that, if my brother and I were stuck in Vietnam because my dad was in the South Army in Vietnam, we were kind of blacklisted. We would have never been able to go to college. We would not have been able to get good jobs, to raise our family. So they came here for our education, because they knew that there was more opportunity for us here. What we do with it is, on us, but at least they didn't feel like they were robbing us the opportunity because they stayed. And so two things about that. I do agree. I think for our children, I definitely want to show them that there's more than just your typical, you know, doctor, lawyer, engineering roles. Because sometimes you could major into something and it could land you in the same path. Like for myself, right now I'm pursuing something that's not even related to pharmacy. I mean, somewhat healthcare related, but I think for me, I had to kind of struggle going through so many different jobs. I've had about, 10 jobs in 10 years, just 3 years to a job for like a full-time position, and not realizing what was missing for me was that fulfillment of that meaningful, like I was just trying to search for it. And I have had people tell me, and then even also my dad has told me, like, um it doesn't matter what job you do as long as you do your best. If you're a janitor, and if you're great at your job, you're still helping people, right? Like by having that clean environment, um, avoiding infectious disease, like for example, a janitor in the hospital or something like that. Um, i- so I think the respect wasn't in what I did, but for me, it was just I think I just wanted more challenge. I just felt like there's got to be something else more to help with a purpose. It very, very much different. Like, not that I definitely see the point of, people who don't have choice and they need to do a job to make money. It doesn't matter what role you do, right? As long as you do a good job at it. But for for somebody who is able to have that opportunity to kind of bounce around, I think that in itself is a privilege. And then now also we're providing our children with that privilege. Um, it just makes me feel like a little unjust, right, for the children who don't have that choice. Um, Kind of like us back when we were younger. So I think that's where it definitely has a big impact on me. Um, and then so we talked about career, our life experience, the career that we have. Um, there, those are, like you said, you don't have regrets because those are the experiences that make up um who we are, and the people we encountered, they're the ones who shape the ways we think now, right? And it's great. Um, but like I know you mentioned, reflecting on um, traits of people that we choose to surround, because in our younger days, we surrounded ourselves with probably different types of people than we do today. I know you have a lot of friends because you said that you send out hundreds of Christmas cards every year. So you have a lot of family, friends, um, people who surround you, that you've encountered and cherished at one moment or another. Um, for me, I've surrounded a lot of, I mean, I've been affected by a lot of people, um, and and primarily it's because I have all the the different jobs that I have. You can't help but accumulate a lot of friends in my shoes because I've encountered so many people. Um, but there isn't enough time of the day, right, to give your time to all these people. Um, I know you mentioned that, like, you wish you were better at picking at the traits of people that you choose to surround yourself with. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I yeah, like at one point we did have so many people that we sent Christmas cards with because we moved around a lot, and just like you, I switched so many jobs, and when been part of just so many different places and communities, and so you're initially, you and I have a huge family, so um and so you may think that I have a lot of friends, but I, like, now that I'm, like, 40, I'm just realizing that there are some people, there are different groups or types of people, there are people who are you're like, ride or die, and then there are people who are there for a season, and then, and there are people that you have a long history with, and I'm just realizing that, you know I like, I guess it's hard sometimes to pick out, or like figure out if when someone is when a relationship is healthy or like unhealthy, and so I guess now, in at my age, I'm just trying to focus on people um who don't drain my energy, who uplift me, and I think for a very long time, even as just growing up as a Christian, and there's, like, and the culture that you're part of, everyone just says, like, you have to give your give,
Hmm.
and so I feel like I was always that person, just giving, and And you also hear people say if you are kind and you're loving and and people will reciprocate that. But then I'm noticing there are people who are not, they will take all your kindness, they will take all your love, they will take all of that and they will leave you empty, you know? And that I just didn't really understand that
Hmm.
because they say to you, you have to continuously give and forgive, but like, and I think this whole, only recently do I realize when, when you're in an airplane, you have to put your mask on first before you can help others.
Hmm.
And that concept was just never there for me growing up. Nobody explained that to me. My parents didn't explain that
Hmm.
to me. And sometimes there is this toxicity to even in faith-based societies, like where some of these things are taught to kind of oppress you, and so
Hmm.
that's something that I had to unlearn and learn, to surround myself with people who have the best interest of me, and to differentiate that's not being selfish. You
Hmm.
could only help others if you are able to have like your cup is full so you can give,
Hmm.
you know but if you're running on empty because somebody's draining you, then you just can't, and you just can't continue to do that. So I think that now I'm careful with who I surround myself with, and you don't need to have a million friends. You could just have one, and that will be,
Hmm.
you know. And so that's something that I'm learning, and yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. You need to be healthy first before you can help others be healthy, whether it be physically or mentally capacity. But I was thinking that just reflecting, because some folks might be in their adolescent years here. Um, I I never really picked and chose my friends. I think people just came and picked me. I think I just never really actively pursued friendships. So I I didn't have a lot of friends, in primary school, in high school, but in college I had quite some friends, but I would just have like, one friend in each clique, and college was a lot of cliques. I went to high school with a lot of cliques too, but I just didn't click anywhere for the most part. But college, it's a lot of friends, and I hear you with the some toxic moments. I didn't grow up with any specific religion. My dad was a Buddhist and my mom's Catholic. Um, but I still understand what you mentioned, when you say you're kind of taught to just give and be kind. Um, and especially, in our profession, I remember like in pharmacy school, right? Like they would say you need to understand that the reason why these patients are sick, like why they're angry. And that kind of just stuck to me because, when people are mean or when people are toxic, like I try to understand their root cause, like why they are the way they are, and then kind of just empathize that way. And that's for patients, right? And then I also think about people I encounter, like, if there's any odd quirks with them, I kind of like just kind of take that into account. But then when it becomes too overwhelming, it takes up too much of your time where you're kind of just playing therapist. It is hard because, like you do hear that therapists are probably one of the most depressed people because they have to hear about everybody's problems, right? They probably need their own therapist as well. Um, so yeah, and then um just thinking about that, like you know, my my dad passed away in 2018, and it was a pretty short time from when we found out he was sick to when he passed away. It was within, like, we found out in June, he passed away in September. So it was like within 3, 4 months time. And I noticed that there were I noticed the people who came and visited him while he was sick. Um, and to me, I think that was the most meaningful, and it just made me realize, wow, this person really made an impact on someone's life enough for them to visit. You visited my friend in California. She came out and visit. Like, he meant a lot to her. And he was very surprised, and he was just like, he told me, he was like, I can't believe these people. Like, I didn't realize, what an impact I had made on them to come out and care. I think he was actually in a way happy that he was sick because he got to see
Mhm.
that there were people out there who loved him. He got to see that we loved him, because we don't show him all the time when he was healthy. Because it's like, in the Asian culture, you don't really hug a lot, or you
Right.
don't do a lot of I love yous and acknowledgement and all that. So he was very thankful, and he was very happy that we had spent that short time together. When he was in the hospital, we just to like uh diverge, like, my mom and I, we were in the same room with him, and we were talking, and he was just really happy. He said that we haven't done that in years, and that was probably when I was little and sleeping with him when I was younger, and then, I don't do that anymore. So he was just happy that we were able to, like, be there and talk. So that really made me think of, okay, who are the people that show up, and who are the people that are going to show up to your funeral, when you die. So so that kind of was just a way for me to think, like, of who I choose to spend my time with, because it's a lot. Like, you don't have enough time of the day to do what you want to do, let alone spend time with people, upon their requests, right? Or like just plan things to do. But I looked around, and I was like saying, I can see this person showing up for my funeral. Do I see this person showing up for my funeral? No. So that was kind of how I teased out who my close friends, close family are. Um, so yeah, that's just like a little tidbit. And obviously you were around. So like, and it's just not only my dad, but like, a really close friend of ours that passed away, um, during COVID, and she passed away of COVID. And it just
Right.
made me realize, she had a lot of friends. She had a lot of people she was friendly to, but when comes push to shove, um, and I'm only talking about the local people, when we needed to clean out her home, um, when I asked people, who was available, then I quickly realized, um, who her true friends were. Um, so that was important. That was a good lesson for me to learn. Um, and lots of regrets, right? Like, I regret I didn't spend enough time with her. I regret I didn't spend enough time with my dad. And then I thought, oh my gosh, like, I just spent all of my college times like partying with people who don't matter to me today, instead of thinking of spending time with, my parents, the people who really matter. At the end of the day, it really is family. But friends can be the ones that you select to be your family as well. Um, yeah, I know you struggle with, um, trying to figure out who to keep around. And at the end of the day, if they don't make you smile, if they don't, if it's all about them and nothing about you, you can almost tell, right? So,
Yeah, it's interesting that you have that take, and I've had, my own health crisis, and I also I've had one of my closest uncle who passed away by with brain tumor less than a year ago, and another. uncle of mine as well. So I feel like I've seen so many people come around, and I, for some reason, I kind of, like you said that you want to keep people, those who might show up for your funeral. And in our community, there are people, they don't care about you, but they will show up your funeral just to make sure that you know that they were there. And so I feel like there are just so many people, and like my uncle who passed away, he was like the guy who helped everyone, like anyone and everyone.
Hmm.
Everyone had a story about him, of what he has done. And when he was his as he was deteriorating, I feel like there were so many people who could have stepped up, you know, who didn't, that he'd done so much for. And yes, there were people who came from like all over, can't like to fly who flew in for his funeral. But I feel like there were some people who could have come before he passed, who could have come like when they knew that he was sick. Um and then there are people who I know, even what I went through, that once I got better and I was fine, um there's no anything. But like it's just that, oh, like I feel like I wanted to differentiate between pity versus I'm really sorry,
Hmm.
I want to help you.
Hmm.
And that is what I think is where I'm at with people, is just, and it's sometimes very challenging because it's confusing how people are, and because you don't think like them. And one of the things I had to learn is that not everybody thinks like you. And some people just are not good, and think they wish bad stuff on you. They're jealous of you. They don't want you to succeed. And and that was hard for me to wrap around because I don't think like that. Like I
Hmm.
don't think like that, and I had to understand that certain people think that way. And but it takes a while to figure out who it is. But at the same time, I don't want to have any regrets. In some is because you're vulnerable, because you put yourself out there, you are able to experience the full range of whatever you experience. You have might have had some good memories with someone, and you realize that wasn't a good relationship, and then now you learn from it and you're better for it, and now I can teach my kids. Just I don't know if you, the psychologist Brene
Hmm.
Brown, she says surround yourself with people who are not candle blower outers. And so there's a light within you, and then just have people surround you who protect your light and energy. So it's funny because sometimes I tell Stern, like, because you were talking about funeral, I'm like, I okay if it's just like a very close funeral where it's like it's by invite only, because I don't want anyone showing up to me and be like, oh, she's dead,
Yeah.
like no, like you never cared about me while I was alive. You never, don't come and show up now, like, you know what I mean?
That is so funny. That is, you know what? No, but like what I mean is very similar to what you say. The people who show up was when he was alive.
Right.
Um, yeah, and that's the same thing my mom says too, like don't show up when he's dead. And don't wait till he's dead and show up. Like go see him while he's alive. But yeah, the people who will step up to do what you need them to do, those are the ones that truly count. Um, yeah, and you know, for me, yes, I think in the young days we don't know, right? Like anybody who wants to be our friend, sure. But I think for me, um, I have a very short temperamental viewpoint in the way that if you have done me wrong once, then that's it. That I don't. come around, and it's because it's the whole mindset is that they can always do it again, um, because maybe there's some issue, there's some underlying issue there in that person that needs to be fixed. I'm sure I have stuff that needs to be fixed as well, but I try not to um, kind of like display that onto others, or if I have issues at home, I don't display it at work, right? Like you don't take your personal problems to work. You don't take your personal problems and put it onto somebody else. That's just my whole motto. And I think when you said some people are just not good, um, we can probably unpack those people, and there could be some underlying issues with them, right? But for you to try to stay around and fix them, you might be sinking in the same boat because you're not a therapist for everybody. You need to kind of keep yourself mentally healthy, to support your family, right? To support the people that are around you that that need you, right? I think that's just like an extracurricular, right? Like if it's
Right.
somebody that like really means a lot and you feel like you can't leave them, like for example, like maybe a family member, right? Or something like that. But for just friends passing by, at the end of the day, yeah, like for the most part, very few friends that my dad had, that truly care about him. For the most part, I see it's the family that will stick by you,
Right.
um, that they will be there. Um, but yeah, Rubina, any last advice for our listeners who are young or who may be experiencing some sort of issues like with career or what we had just talked about?
I think that, I you know, I I think that people should do what they love to do. And if that doesn't always mean that will be like their first job. And I think that you can take away from like look at every opportunity as like a stepping stone, and work towards your happiness, which is not something that I thought of. I thought of how can I help everybody else? How can I help my parents? How can I help, when I got married, Stern was, my husband was in medical school, so I had to help him. And then I had kids. And so it was always, about someone else and not about me. And it's not because they told me that I need to focus on them. It was just, that was me, just being that person. And now I take some time for myself, and without feeling guilty, without thinking that's selfish. And so to make time for yourself and to not, surround yourself with good people who cheer you up, not drain you. And yeah, and continue to do what makes you happy. And when you're happy, you can also bring smile and happiness to other people. And like you could be like working at Starbucks, and then like you can, like if you just smile at someone who's
Hmm.
that that would mean a lot to someone. And
Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, that's and you covered a lot about your dad and the people who came and saw him. And yeah, so it's important. And at the end of the day, yeah, it's family that will be around you. But at the same time, like one of the things you said is that you regret not spending enough time with your dad, um um with the coworker who passed away during COVID. Sometimes you also have to realize you were not in a position where you had so much time. You were a young mom, and you were working full time, and you were in that position to go. And sometimes when you're that at that point, um I don't think there is much bandwidth, to be able to stop. But at the same time, like, um the moments that you did have, you have to cherish and uh, forgive yourself for the moments that you didn't have or you could have had. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear you. I
Yeah.
hear you. It definitely is easier said than done. But yes, very true, very wise words. So yeah, so don't think of the typical career that you have to go, right? I would say go find the most odd, quirky thing that are being done. And does it make people happy? Is it something that you might be interested? Then, go out and explore those different opportunities. Then I would say backtrack and see what majors you need to be in order to get those jobs. And that was the one thing that I didn't realize, like because we went into a major, then we found jobs, but it
Right.
was more now the advice is go find your dream job. Like what makes you happy? And that's the reason why we talked about happiness is what makes it fulfilling for you. And then backtrack and then go discover what degree you need to get, what experience do you need to get there. So you know, thank you everybody for listening to us rant. But we had a purpose today, and that was just to make your life, your career meaningful and how to be happy. It's just surrounding yourself with people that don't blow out your candle, right? They got to protect that candle. All right.
And thank
Thank
you for inviting me. And it was just a pleasure to talk to you. We haven't talked in so long, so it was great. So
I know. We'll definitely have to talk again more.
yeah.
Thank you, Rubina.